we founded Project ENZA, a platform ebikhuluma ekutheni zonke izinto ziyakwazi ukwenzeka as long as we do what we need to do. So I am representing Leo platform namhlanje. Obviously, background yami has been ikakhulukazi with tourism and hospitality industry. So at times when you do things, you try and align them to what you know best and see ukuthi lezo zinto zingasizakala kanjani. So whilst Project ENZA is called Project ENZA, we are about doing good and doing good things, not only limited to the expertise of what I know within the industry, but everything else engakwazi ukusiza umphakathi wethu.
According to you, what is social entrepreneurship, Thandekile?
I'd like to say that, and everyone who's listening, I like the fact that social entrepreneurship is very linked to philanthropy. And I find that kunama linkages there. And if we look deep into what philanthropy means, it says phil means love, and then uentro means human. So what we do is because of love and the human part. And kumnandi lokhu because thina ma-African ikakhulukazi siyayazi leyo nto of being human. Yona social entrepreneurship kade yaqala. Ayizange nje iqale ngoba thina sesikhona. Into evele sikhule iyenzeka ikhona siyibona. As years have gone by, it has been something that has been formalized. But sifunde kubona omama, ogogo, o-auntie, osisi. Corner, la suga corner. So to me, I think I would like to base it on the fact that it's linked to utando and the human part of it, because sonke we do need in some way or the other to show love and receive love for us to be able to do a lot of things. And then all the other technicalities, the social entrepreneurship is more visible. But for me, the crux of it and how I understand it is the fact that it is linked to philanthropy, right? And that, if you look at it, it is about love and the human element. So that's what I'd like to sort of say, base it on.
Beautiful. It begins and it ends with love, as according to you, Thandekile. My brother Simo, according to you, social entrepreneurship.
All right. Into a social entrepreneurship, it revolves around something called Ubuntu, right? We as Africans, we are well known of something called Ubuntu, which I am because we are, right? Therefore, back in the days, and you'll find that abanye abantu, they've forgotten how to help other people. You help not necessarily that you are expecting something in return. There is something which is something which has to do with the fulfillment. When you extend that particular hand, when you help someone without expecting anything in return, there is something that you get afterwards, which is the feeling called fulfillment, right? You remember earlier on I said something that when I help someone, when I make someone to smile and stuff like that, when I become the miracle to somebody else, I just feel differently. I feel full, as if I'm loaded, you know what I'm saying? So in the social entrepreneurship, yes, it does have the element of entrepreneurship, but where it starts, when there isn't or without expecting anything in return, and when you do those things, the man above compensates. Venture into this being driven by the so-called mali kakhulu. It comes from the heart. In fact, you receive messages from the men above. Remember, you said something about Isaiah. I heard the Lord. It's about hearing, you know what I'm saying? So it's something that is so deep. Every day. So if you can listen attentively and act accordingly, then all of that, it forms part of a social entrepreneurship.
So what I wanted to
Definitely.
touch on is the fact that both of you used to work in a corporate space, and then eventually you decided to venture into this space. So Thandekile, you left that space and gravitated more towards the social space. What does it take to actually even do that when we're also concerned about sizophila kanjani? Ngoba, as my brother was saying, Simo, you don't know if you actually even are going to have income, but because you are driven by what's driving you, you are confident that indeed you can go ahead, but like it must take a lot though.
Most definitely.
It definitely does. And I think the drive comes whilst you're still working. I think most companies or corporates and Joba Connect to our CSIs and all of those things, every organization will have some way of doing something that is good. But starting this was also because Jobeshilo Simo, and it's part of my 10 F's I always talk about, is the fulfillment. At the end of the day, we can do as much as we can and earn as much as we can and lose the earnings as well. And life has a lot of ups and downs, and I've been through all those ups and downs. But one fulfillment is knowing that you're doing something that doesn't take you getting any physical reward, but know what you can make that difference. So it was a no-brainer for me, especially with the background, Jobasa Shilo, of knowing Guguti, you want to spread love where you can. And possibly, if it's not just about love, it's spreading positivity in terms of making sure people become the best that they can. I can say I haven't reached to the levels of what I know God has for me, but it does not mean, Nuguti, I can't start walking the journey step by step whilst impacting other people to get to those levels. And so it was just, for me, a natural progression to make sure, Guti, let me take up the space and use it in a useful manner that will then grow others, whilst I myself also grow as well.
Thandekile, you've always been passionate about the tourism space. And obviously this is how Project ENZA was formed. Can you maybe tell us what Project ENZA is, and perhaps then touch on what the situation or would be the role of Project ENZA currently as we are experiencing this lockdown period in essentially South Africa, the continent, and in the world?
So as a project, we're about doing things that can change people's lives. And when I say change people's lives, it's not only just by isn't tangible, because yes, you can say you're a giver and a doer, but sometimes it takes you just sitting down with someone or to understand the different perspectives of what's happening. And being in an industry that was predominantly and still is of the other color, and the tourism industry kind of growing fast pace as it has been since 1994, I saw a huge need of exposure and education. And it was imperative for us to expose, especially our educators from the schools about tourism and hospitality, including the universities as well. So we were finding that a lot of the educators were teaching the subjects that they're teaching with any tourism and hospitality, but the actual information and the feel and understanding of what goes on in the industry, it was very minimal. So whilst I was still in corporate, I'd find I'd have to expose people to what a hotel room looks like, for instance, what is done there, what is the events that happen in conference rooms, conference facilities, etc., etc. So it all started there, whereby people get to understand things when they are exposed to them and get to also experience them, and it changes your mind shift altogether. So that's how we started what we did. And obviously, when you are and then you have been in the industry, you have a lot of networks, because a lot of what we do, we can't do it by ourselves, but we can achieve it with partners that we work closely with. So I had to look at the fact that over the years of only been in this industry, I've worked with so many powerful individuals that have worked for hotel groups and different sectors within the tourism industry. How can those people play a role? Because abanye babo bayafuna ukwenza things, but hey, you know, indaba ukuthi ngizoqala manje ngizama ukwenza ukuthi, they just want somebody who already has this idea, but they will have some valuable input. And so that's where I saw there was a gap, and they're always willing to share their expertise. And just by engaging, it changes a lot for individuals. So that's what we are doing. And obviously now, with a lot of innovation that's taking place, we now need to look at different ways and strategies of how we are educating, particularly youth and women, as to how are we gonna make it in this new world of technology and information, and really making it out there, because now the strategy of how we used to do things is gonna definitely change. I mean, COVID has just shown us that right now.
What I found though, in my short journey in this space of social entrepreneurship, because we also do have a foundation as Ikhono, and it's sort of fashioned to be like a social enterprise. It's access to funding. You know, all the projects that we're doing, it really comes from the profit-making business, and it pours into the non-profit making entity. And it's a struggle. I mean, just this morning, we hosted a powerful session, a seminar for the youth, because we want our youth to thrive even during this time. But funding, dololo.
It's okay.
Guy, how are you navigating that one?
I like what you're saying, is that because at the end of the day, if you start this thinking, you will get the support, it won't work. So try to do as much as you can with the little that you can, because most of the support that we have gotten during the journey, I think we started 2014, but with no funding, as you said. And one of the lessons there was, don't start too big, start small with the little that you have and keep going. And those partners come when they can see, okay, khona lento ebashintshayo labantu, and it comes at its own time. But when it does come, it makes even a greater impact. But it's about starting small with what you have. It's coming from your profit-making business. The same happened to me, where I had to take from what I was earning. It was difficult because, you know, you're taking from what the home is supposed to also be receiving. But at the same time, I had to dig deep to say, God, what are you telling me? If you say I need to do this, I need to do it. And he then comes through in his own way to cover the patches. So yes, funding is available, but nakona, it's also understanding the processes of how to get it. I found because I was just driven, I thought, hey, I need to do this, you know, but the process of getting to formally register these the entities, and making sure what you are compliant enough to be able to get the donors and all those supports, you need to have all of that in place. And that requires time as well. It requires a lot of education in the process into knowing how to do all of that. So it needs you to be very, very well learned to know, and it takes a lot of engaging as well from those that have started it as well. But it's gotta not be a demotivator, because a lot of people say, "Way, you won't find dololo." But ingola ehambayo kufuneka iqhubeke njengoba nina nendile with no funding. But those that will join you will join knowing ukuthi these people did impact, so we'd like to join their own.
So, Thandekile, in terms of impact, what sort of impact are you seeing since Project ENZA started? I mean, we are both in an industry that I am also passionate about. You are also passionate about the tourism space, the impact.
Oh, I love the impact, and it's correct is that it's important to be able to measure the impact. Obviously, we deal with youth ekhulayo in between, but the impact is always different because abanye bafuna umsebenzi, abanye they still just trying to understand this whole industry on its own. But what I've liked kakhulu is seeing those that have never been exposed to the industry being there and doing the work. I'd like to mention, obviously, Wuti, based on working with partners, we are then able to, even through the likes of you, Ikhono, take on those students. Manenza ma conferences amakhulu. Abanye babo, they volunteer, and it takes just that opportunity for them. Ukuthi eThekwini kune conference enkulu. I'll make an example. For instance, you did one biotech type of conference where we got those students to come and volunteer. But in that volunteering, you still did some kind of a certificate to say you have worked at this big conference and you now have some kind of tangible experience that contributes to your work. So I like the fact that most of those that we impact via partners like yourself, they then go home with tangibles to say, and this is what it was like. Obviously, part of that, we then have to mentor them on the job, which is also very interesting because you get to see different attitudes of youth this now. Some of them come from different mindsets, and when you engage them, and especially in the workforce, because the same youth needs to go and apply for jobs, and I know, especially in industry, tourism, a lot of the entities say they would rather employ for attitude and train for skill, because attitude goes a long way. And when we are making that impact, we are able to also tell them these things in the real, to say, listen, maybe your attitude is not the right one for this industry. If you'd be doing this and if you want to go far, you need to start changing how you're going to do, because these people that you're going to be working with, this is the type of attitude that they need. So the impact has been nice in that you also give them the opportunity, but whilst they're also having given that opportunity, you're able to correct some of the things that they might not see because they don't know any better. They just behind the desk at Turkey or at TVET college or wherever they are, and they don't know what is expected of them. So it's always nice to be able to also engage them during the impact that we are able to see. And that's also being over the years, which has been very nice to be able to see, and also getting their feedback sebe in the workplace with kwangisiza ukuthi ningi-expose to such a hotel, because now you understand a better where do I fit within this mix of tourism? What is it le mina engifuna ukuyenza and see myself in? So that has been very rewarding to see happen. One of the things we celebrate is World Tourism Day, and just recently last year we got an opportunity to go and have it at a location whereby it's run obviously as a hospitality restaurant, one of the ones that have been winning lots of accolades. So we took the same youth to say to them, you know, you start where you come from as well. Nothing stops you from doing everything that you've ever dreamt of to world standards in your own community. So it's doing things more practical instead of us now only using hotels. Yes, we need to expose them, but we need to also expose them to the same establishments, Asebe, Wakalile, or Putmexi, and the many, even Kwamashu, Atizini Corner. And so then from there we plant a seed of saying, okay, we see there's this facility, maybe now we can start having conference facilities because mhlambe wena uthanda ukuba kwi-space se-conferencing, so that people can also be exposed to experiencing a conference setup in a township, for instance. So I like that we have been able to take them and say, look at tangible examples with people are running businesses, and it's possible for you and your business to make it also known internationally and get awards like how Max has in his space. And we went there. I know you we were there doing a proper conference called Nagamex. So it was giving them a different outlook as to, it's not about just but you can also gather there and do things that are more productive than just the leisure part of it. So I think, yes, I am really wanting to see how we can grow our township economy to really create more business people. I think Nonobuntu has also said there, we expose them, but let's not talk about jobs pen. Within the same youth, a lot of them are so creative that we want them to run their own businesses. We want them to be the future hotel owners. And so that's what we're trying to drive. If it didn't happen for me, it's gotta happen for them. So that's what we're trying to drive. We need to start building stronger relations with our communities. And then I think that's where it starts. Once they feel there are those relations and they are stronger, then we can see even more tangible results within our own communities and our gasis. What I'd like to say to people that want to get into this kind of social entrepreneurship is to listen to your still voice. It's very, very, very important. And what I've also learned is that you need to keep dreaming. And I know a lot of ideas, in my case, come during sleep. So also think about the dreams that you normally dream of, because they'll keep knocking and knocking until you start doing what you need to do. So listen to all those little, there's always these little signs uNkulunkulu asendela wona indirectly, and so try and listen to all those things. And I know a lot of us have been through so much, and as it is, a lot of women are going through so much, and we not only just do this because we're just doing it, we look at all the social ills that we deal with, and if there's a way of helping another woman, another man, it's important. So I always say to them, I am in spite of what I've been through. So give them that hope, whatever you might have gone through, you are, and you're bigger than that. Stay by being your own motivation. Whatever you've been through, let it be that motivation to keep you going, to get you started, to say, I would have overcome this. I think what I also like and I've seen is that mental diet is so, so important. Lockdown has also shown us how important mental diet is, because a lot of us, signs of depression suddenly ayavela pop up and all those sort of things. So it's very, very important that your mental diet is in line with what your dreams and desires are. So feed yourself the right attitude, say it and repeat it time and time and time again, because uNkulunkulu njengoba esuke seyiplantile leyo nto ufuna ukuthi uyenze, uSathane will come with his own ways of trying to bring you down, but speak a lot of it, you know, and find stimulants like books, proper networks, you know, social media, I love it, but it's also important to follow the people, or the people that only give you the best of you, and that you will only get the best of what you want to be, Diona. So stimulants are very, very important. And intentionally, I like it, because you need to intentionally lift or uplift yourself. And then from that, you are able to further lift others, because the more you do this intentionally, the better that it is. So let's continue doing things that are impactful. These are our communities where we've come from. Basenzela mama no gogo abawenza ma example. It's the same ones that have made great beings that we know, that we are proud of. So let's steer hope for a better tomorrow together. And lastly, I'd like to say, let's keep doing. And all you do is keep doing. And through that, you yourself, you keep learning as well. But asenze,